Welcome to MovieNest. Let's dive into today's mind-blowing film. John tries to walk away peacefully, but Anton isn't having it. He mocks John, saying he didn't bring enough alcohol for everyone, clearly underestimating who he's talking to. The group tries to corner John, not realizing they've just picked a fight with the wrong man. Without hesitation, John fights back. He moves fast and hits hard, breaking bones, striking sensitive areas, and leaving them all breathless on the floor. He doesn't go overboard, just enough to shut them down. All 5 of them end up at the police station. Officer Carter watches the security footage, amused, and then heads into John's holding room. With a smirk, she jokes, "You should have hit them a few more times for me." But John stays silent. Carter, clearly intrigued, decides to dig deeper. She hands him a cup of water, but this isn't kindness, it's a setup. She makes sure to hold the cup by the rim to capture John's fingerprints. Quietly, she passes the cup to forensics. The results are shocking. John's fingerprints match multiple crime scenes across the globe. He has 4 active arrest warrants in different countries. He's not just a violent man. He's a ghost with a past that stretches far and wide. Before Carter can do anything, a mysterious lawyer shows up and secures John's release. He takes John straight to his employer, Harold Finch. Harold is no ordinary man. He's wealthy, powerful, and knows everything about John's past, even his downward spiral. Harold tells John that what he really needs is a purpose. Standing in the middle of New York, Harold explains his mission. Every 18 hours, someone in this city dies a violent death. But what if that could be stopped? Harold has a system, a list of people who are going to be involved in future crimes. The catch? The list doesn't say whether they'll be the victim or the perpetrator. He gives John a name, Diane Henson. Something is going to happen, but they don't know what. John isn't interested. He thinks Harold's just a rich stalker with too much time. So, he walks, but Harold's men try to stop him, and John wipes the floor with them effortlessly. Later, John checks into a hotel, trying to clean himself up and stay under the radar, but Harold still isn't done. He plays John a recording of a murder that happened in the next room 3 years ago. Then he twists the knife. "You were too late, just like you were for Jessica." That name hits hard. Jessica was someone John loved and lost. Angry and shaken, John confronts Harold, but Harold calmly replies, "It's the truth." And it is. Deep down, John knows it. That's what finally convinces him. He agrees to work with Harold, not for money, but to stop others from losing what he already has. Harold brings John to his private operations base. There, John learns that the list Harold spoke of is actually made up of social security numbers, each one tied to a future crime. It's up to John to figure out who's in danger and why. He starts tracking Diane Henson. 2 potential threats emerge. First, there's Wheeler, her ex-boyfriend and co-counselor, who clearly hasn't let go. Second, there's Pope, a gangster she once helped send to prison. John keeps watch from a distance. At Pope's trial, he sees Detective Fusco testifying, but afterward, Henson is furious. Fusco went off script without her approval. Later, Henson visits Pope in prison. She tells him face-to-face that she believes he's not guilty of the crime he's charged with. Unbeknownst to her, John is listening in through a bugged mic on her phone. Pope has a younger brother named Michael, whom he's desperately trying to protect. It's implied that Pope is lying about the murder he supposedly committed to shield Michael from the real killers, because Michael actually witnessed them committing the crime. The next day, Wheeler sneaks into Henson's office and starts digging through her computer to find more information about Michael. John suspects Wheeler might be involved in something shady. That same night, the bad guys reach Michael first, but John shows up just in time. He shoots at their truck with a grenade launcher, saving Michael, and even manages to steal some badges from the attackers. It turns out these men are corrupt cops. As John keeps an eye on them, he discovers they're working with Detective Fusco. These dirty cops kill anyone who might expose them, while Fusco sets up innocent people to take the fall. John wants to understand more about Harold's mysterious list. Harold reveals that after September 11th, the government hired him to build a system combining all the country's cameras and microphones into one giant surveillance machine. This machine produces 2 lists, one tracking possible terrorist threats, and the other focusing on other types of crimes. Harold's backdoor access only gets them the second list, but it only gives social security numbers. So John has to do the detective work to figure out what's going on. John keeps working, convinced Henson is in danger. But things get complicated when it seems Henson is secretly working with the dirty cops, who also murdered Pope in his prison cell. Henson orders them to kill Wheeler too because he's getting too close. At the same time, Fusco suddenly appears behind John, pointing a gun at him. John narrowly escapes Fusco's custody when Fusco tries to take him out in the desert and returns to New York. Back in the city, the dirty cops attempt to kill Wheeler and frame a thug for it, but John arrives just in time to stop them. He then exposes Henson by mixing up some recordings, and ultimately blackmails Fusco into working for him, knowing he'll need an insider. A few days later, John steps into an elevator and strikes up a conversation with a man named Bill. John guesses the flowers Bill is holding are for his wife. He jokes that some women leave their partners after discovering infidelity, while others hire guys to make the breakup look like a robbery gone wrong. John tells Bill to call a good divorce lawyer and then follows two men who are clearly hired to cause trouble for Bill. The next day, Harold's machine spits out a new number for John to investigate, a girl named Teresa. Her case is unusual. Harold takes John to a cemetery and tells him Teresa is supposed to be dead. Her father was a real estate developer who went bankrupt and went insane, killing his family during a weekend trip before turning the gun on himself. Harold insists the machine sees everything, so if Teresa's number is showing up, it means she's still alive. John visits Fusco and asks for Teresa's case file. Fusco has no choice but to comply. After studying the file, John concludes this wasn't a family murder but a professional hit made to look like one. Harold is curious how John knows that, and John explains it's just how he would have done it. Using Harold's technology, they track Teresa, but she senses she's being followed and manages to slip away before John can catch her. Later, John visits Harold's office, where it's revealed that Harold owns the company but keeps a low profile by actually working there. John hands him a small device Teresa left behind, a gadget that records card information from ATMs. Teresa's apparently making a living by stealing card info and withdrawing money illegally. John hits the streets, asking around about the killer who was hired to wipe out Teresa's family. He learns the hitman's nickname is Soul Nick. The killer is now in jail for a different crime. John visits him in prison and begins his interrogation. When John asks Soul Nick why he didn't kill the girl, Soul Nick says he has a code. He would never kill a kid. Instead, he warned the girl that if she ever talked about him, he'd come back to finish the job. John wants to know who hired Soul Nick, but Soul Nick says he only met that man once and was paid in cash, with no names exchanged. Soon, Teresa tries to sell some stolen banking information online, and Finch is able to track her down. John finds her, but before he can get to her safely, an assassin who's after Teresa intercepts them. Sean jumps in to save the girl and takes her to a hotel. There, Teresa reveals her father blamed her Uncle Derek for what happened to the family. John tracks down Derek and discovers he worked with two big contractors to kill his brother. Motivated by greed, the land would now be worth 40 times more than before. They want Teresa dead too, because if anyone finds out she's alive, she'll inherit that land. John confronts one of these contractors and runs a big truck right over his car. When John asks the man to call off the hit on Teresa, the man just shrugs and says it's already in motion. Back at the hotel, the assassin is closing in on Teresa, while Harold tries to sneak her out via the fire escape. Just as the assassin finds them and raises his gun, John shows up and kills the attacker. The next day, John calls Agent Carter to set up a meeting. Carter arrives with secret officers, but all they find is Teresa. At the police station, Carter tries to get information from Teresa, but the girl says her trauma has left her unable to recall much about the man who saved her. Later, John visits Harold at his office, but Harold has moved to another location. Harold asks John to respect his privacy and not call him by his first name. He'll only reach out when they need to talk. They don't get much rest because the machine spits out a new number, this time belonging to a guy named Joey, a decorated military soldier who now works as a hotel groom. John starts watching Joey. One day, Joey sends a strange message, leaves work, and John follows him into a bank. Joey puts on a mask while an accomplice robs the place. John can't do much, pinned to the ground, but he stops the security guard from grabbing his gun. It's not the right move. After the robbery, Harold suggests they hand Joey over to the police before anyone gets hurt, but John wants to understand how a decorated soldier got involved in armed robbery. He watches Joey and discovers he's linked to a network of former soldiers committing similar crimes. John meets a former sergeant named Sam who owns a bar. Sam says he's looking for a high-paying job and was recommended by a supposedly dead Marine friend. A few days later, Finch arranges for their driver to be arrested, creating an opening for John to join Joey's team. Meanwhile, Carter watches the bank footage and notices John saving the security guard. Back with Harold, John learns Joey doesn't seem like the type to kill innocent people. Maybe he only kills when at war. John pretends to meet Joey by chance and starts asking about their next job. Joey says it depends on Sam, the one giving orders. The two men grow closer after picking a fight with some bankers. John probes about Joey's personal life and learns Joey is connected to two women but keeps his private life secret. Soon, the gang calls Joey for a mission. The police identify one gang member, and the group robs an underground mafia-run gambling site, leaving just before police arrive. Sam prepares for the next step. The team is gearing up for another hit, and Harold feels it's time to put an end to all this. But John asks for more time. He wants to protect Joey. He's learned that one of the women Joey meets is his girlfriend, while the other is the wife of his war buddy. That buddy has a daughter, and Joey is determined to gather enough money so she can have a good life. Meanwhile, the buddy's wife has just had a baby. John joins the gang on their next mission, to steal evidence related to someone named Elias. Finch soon discovers that Sam is setting the team up and warns John. When the gang hands the case files over to Sam, he kills them, but John manages to save Joey and tells him to skip town. Later, Sam passes the evidence to an unknown person, but when John tracks Sam down, he's already dead. After all this stress, Harold decides it's time for a doctor's visit. Though he's dealing with back pain and needs some pills, his real goal is to steal Dr. Tillman's hospital radio. The machine has given them her number, so the team needs to figure out what's going on with her. John starts watching Tillman and realizes she's a lonely person, all work and no fun. One night, Tillman goes out, and a guy hits on her. He tries to follow her, but John steps in and handles him. Inside the club, John notices a man named Andrew who bumped into Tillman earlier. John bumps into Andrew too and soon finds out the man is carrying drugs. The bartender tells John that Tillman visits the club alone every night. Looks like Andrew has caught her attention. The next day, John breaks into Andrew's apartment and steals files from his computer. When he reviews them with Harold, they find out Andrew is a predator, always looking for chances to exploit women. He has a criminal record from college, but it was wiped clean officially. Meanwhile, Carter reviews footage from John's team stealing the case files and notices one thief had a brief conversation with Harold. They exchanged some words. That night, John watches Andrew approach Tillman at the bar. They flirt briefly before Andrew invites her back to his place. Tillman declines, but she follows Andrew and uses a camera to observe him closely. John calls Finch and says Andrew isn't stalking Tillman, it's the other way around. The doctor is stalking the banker. John gets help from Fusco to dig up Andrew's old file. He learns Andrew was accused of sexually assaulting a girl in college, but charges were dropped because she reported it late. Tragically, that girl later overdosed, and she was Dr. Tillman's sister. Now, Tillman is seeking revenge. The machine gave them Tillman's number because she's planning to kill Andrew. Meanwhile, Carter visits Harold, asking about what the robber told him. Harold lies, saying the robber told him not to stare at him. John continues his investigation and finds that Tillman has bought chemicals capable of dissolving Andrew's body after she kills him. John's plan is to make Andrew disappear so Tillman can't go through with it. John causes an accident with Andrew's car, which is loaded with drugs. The police arrest Andrew, but he's released the next day. John is frustrated, but Fusco explains Andrew's rich and has expensive lawyers on his side. That night, Tillman breaks into Andrew's apartment, tases and drugs him, then puts him in a wheelchair in her van. John intercepts and asks her to sit down. He knows who she's carrying. John convinces Tillman not to kill Andrew, telling her that doing so would destroy the most important part of herself. Tillman isn't a killer. She's someone who helps people. John takes Andrew to a secluded spot. They have an intense conversation as John debates whether to let Andrew live. Maybe people can change, or to kill him because maybe they don't. He wonders if there are truly good people in the world or just good decisions. He even asks Andrew to help him decide. A few days later, the machine gives Finch a new number, a man named Samuel Gates, a Supreme Court judge rumored to be fair but who has made many enemies by declaring war on crime. John follows him and notices some guys tailing the judge. One of the men makes a move, but John sees him pull out a phone, send a message, and toss it in a dumpster. John retrieves the phone and reads a message about Samuel's son finishing school. He realizes they've been following the wrong target. Meanwhile, some bad guys try to kidnap Samuel's son. John jumps in to stop them and fights, but one attacker shoots John, knocking him out. The kidnappers get away with the boy. The judge receives a call from the kidnappers telling him not to tell anyone and to wait for their instructions. Devastated, Samuel doesn't know who to turn to, but John approaches and says, "I'm here to help. They'll keep your son alive as long as you're useful." Samuel wants to know who John is, but John just says, "I'm somebody who wants to help." Someone is helping the two of them get to the judge's house, but the man wonders how the kidnappers managed to get past the alarm. John tells the judge to wait for the kidnappers' next call while he goes to the nanny's house. On the phone with Finch, who's trying to hack the cell phone company to trace the kidnappers' call, John finds out the nanny is dead. It's likely the kidnappers got past the alarm by extracting the code from her. Later, Finch helps John track down one of the men John saw earlier. When John beats the man unconscious and checks his chest, he notices a tattoo. It marks him as a member of a gang called SP9. Originally from Eastern Europe, the gang seems to have opened a branch in New York. That night, the kidnappers call the judge, but they don't want money. They demand that the judge throw out the case of a woman named Angela. If Angela walks free, they'll return Samuel's son. The judge reveals that Angela's case is simple. She ran over someone and left them behind. Meanwhile, Finch learns that SP9 has expanded to 18 countries. The next day, Samuel presides over Angela's trial. He tries to help her case while stalling as long as possible before making a decision. The gang boss calls him, telling him to stop playing games. but Samuel insists he must do things the right way. John has interrogated the man he caught and learned the location where the gang collects their payments. Visiting the place, John finds $500,000 and beats up 2 guards. Finch listens in on a phone call between Angela and the gang boss, putting the pieces together. Angela works at a bank that produces software to spot money laundering, but she can disable it with a click. It seems she's helping the gang launder money. The gang uses online payments for everything, even to pay lawyers. The next day, Finch pretends to work at the bank and steals info from their servers. Meanwhile, the trial continues, and John tries to find Samuel's son, but he's not where they thought. With no news from the judge, John is forced to free Angela, not guilty on all charges. The gang boss tells Samuel to pick up his son, but John knows the kidnappers plan to kill the judge. When Samuel arrives, the kidnappers tell him to say goodbye to his son, but John arrives with Angela and exposes the whole scheme. John reveals Angela disables the anti-money laundering software for 3 minutes each morning, allowing the gang to move their funds. The gang boss realizes the operation is compromised and orders his men to kill everyone. A shootout ensues, ending with the bad guys losing. Finch gives evidence to a lawyer to send Angela to prison, while police find her tied up with the gangsters. John has to pretend to be a driver to meet the next person on the machine's list, Zoe Morgan. He meets Zoe and pretends to be her new driver. Zoe is cautious, calling the company to verify, and Finch answers to cover for John. John drives Zoe to a location where she pays a man for a gun, but back at her apartment, Finch finds another gun. John comments that the second gun must be untraceable. Zoe changes clothes, and John follows her to an event, suspecting she might be involved. At the event, Zoe meets with a high-ranking officer and gives him the gun. Their conversation reveals the officer lost his gun, and Zoe retrieved it to save him trouble. Afterwards, John drives Zoe home. She asks him to meet her again the next day at 10 sharp. Finch asks John what he thinks is going on, and John says she's a fixer, someone who does favors for money. In a case like hers, many people might want her dead. Meanwhile, the police find the dead body of a man who was the main suspect in an old case involving a woman named Marlene Elias. The stolen case file from earlier episodes belonged to her. Carter talks to the detective who worked the case and learns that Marlene was a waitress at a mafia-owned cocktail bar. The mafia boss, Don, had an affair with her. Marlene wanted Don to divorce his wife, but Don grew tired of her and hired the dead man to kill her. The killer walked free after Don bought his case. Marlene and Don had a son who may have ordered the theft of the case file and the killing of the main suspect. Soon, Zoe gets into trouble with Mark Lawson, heir to a pharmaceutical company. He had her retrieve a recording exposing his illegal affair. After killing the reporter who had the recording, Mark now wants Zoe dead to cover his tracks. John intervenes and saves Zoe while Finch poses as a major shareholder to meet Mark. Harold's investigation shows Mark killed the woman he had an affair with. The woman was about to expose a scandal about a company drug, so Mark silenced her. John and Zoe break into the pharmaceutical headquarters and recover deleted files. Finch finds out the company's new drug has a 3% mortality rate. 6 out of 200 people died. The company probably paid authorities to ignore this, so they could get the drug approved. Unfortunately, John and Zoe get caught and tied up. Mark is about to kill them, but Zoe reveals she mailed the report to someone she trusts. Mark negotiates, and Zoe agrees to lead him to the person who has the report if he promises to spare her life. Before leaving, Zoe slips a paper clip into John's hand. John uses it to free himself, kills the guard, and rescues Zoe. The good guys then make the info public, bringing down the pharmaceutical company and making them pay for their crimes. As they part ways, John tells Zoe to stay out of trouble. She replies, "That's not an option for me." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing content. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.